The numbers that we've discovered are actually quite high, although perhaps unsurprising when you take into account that there are septic tanks in these people's gardens that are overflowing and animals within quite close proximity to their houses. Therefore, all this excrement that's in these areas is being kind of dredged up by the floodwater and taken into their houses and into their gardens.
Now, it obviously exceeds the levels that the World Health Authority suggests for bathing water. Obviously, nobody in their right mind in that area is going for a swim in the neighbouring fields, but people are wading through it. They are getting it on their clothing. How concerned should they be?
Well, if it's just on their clothing, they shouldn't be too concerned. But, however, if they're going to be then preparing food afterwards, or especially if there's young children about, anything that their young children are going to be touching, it's possible they could get some quite nasty gastrointestinal diseases or diarrhoea, etc., from coming in contact with this floodwater.
Once the floodwater recedes, how long does it take for the bacteria to disperse? Because I'm thinking, you talk about children, there could well be play equipment in these gardens. The floodwaters could have flooded all across it. The waters go. How safe are things like that for people to touch and play with in the coming weeks?
Well, actually, it's been shown in a few studies that during the clean-up operation is actually some of the times when you get the largest increase in gas. It would take, imagine, about 2 to 3 months for the bacteria levels to drop significantly in the top layer of soil.
Now, I understand that you have some of your research with you. You can show us some of the petri dishes that you've been carrying out this research into. Let's have a look and see what they show.
Yeah, well, we've got a couple of examples here at the moment. This particular example shows what we would call fecal coliforms. So some of the bacteria you would expect in human and animal excrement. These are light colonies and these pink ones. We would assume that these would probably be E. coli.
And of course, E. coli can, as you say, give really nasty gastrointestinal problems. What precautions can people living there take?
Well, it'd be fairly standard precautions in terms of hand hygiene, making sure that they've washed their hands after they've come in contact with the floodwater, especially if they're going to be preparing food. And it may be difficult when there's no actual sinks for the water to drain through, but if they have alcohol hand wash to sanitize their hands with, that would also be useful. And during the clean-up and afterwards, they really need to make sure that anything that children will come in contact with has been washed down or disinfected with a strong kind of disinfectant.
So, you've pretty much you're going to have to disinfect your garden, aren't you? Which is obviously pretty challenging. You can hose down walls, you can hose down patios and things. But what about grass? What about the plants and things like that? Will they still be contagious, as it were?
They'll still contain quite high levels of bacteria for a few months afterwards, but thankfully they will begin to die off with sunlight, especially, and the rain that afterwards will help kind of dilute the organisms down.
And of course, Nathaniel, there's no concern that this is in the actual water that people are drinking. That, of course, comes from a different source, and that water is still quite safe as far as you're aware.
Yep, no, the water supplies to people's houses are completely separate, and their water quality standards are significantly higher, and so there's absolutely no danger to drinking water.
But certainly don't be rinsing anything out in what's washing around your ankles, and certainly use your best hygiene precautions if you do get it on you. Nathaniel, thanks very much for taking us through your research there. Thank you.